Important. You have 10 seconds to hear what the universe wants you to know. Right now, pause. Notice that split second when your eyes flick, when your hand brushes your phone and stops, when you almost click, but don't. Maybe your chest tightened for a beat, and you told yourself it was nothing. Maybe a small voice whispered, "Don't go," or "Try it," and you kept walking. Those tiny moments, a breath held, a hesitation at a doorway, a sudden clarity amid the noise, are not accidental. They are invitations. If you can feel that tiny hesitation right now, type "I'm listening" in the comments. Just that, one small mark to say you're paying attention for these 10 seconds. What happens in 10 seconds is simple and strange. Your body can register a shift before your mind has a word for it. The muscles, the nervous system, the way your breath changes, these are primitive but brilliant detectors. They notice patterns, small mismatches between what the world is offering and what you need. Psychologists call this pre-conscious processing. Research suggests our nervous system flags possibilities before we fully interpret them. In other words, your body often knows something is up a fraction of a second before you form a story about it. Imagine you're walking down a familiar street. You pass the coffee shop you always ignore, and for one heartbeat, the air tastes different. Without naming it, your skin prickles. That is not panic. That is a signal. It could be the universe, by which I mean reality, your situation, the pattern around you, nudging you. It's offering information about direction. What you decide in those tiny 10 seconds can tilt things. Not because some cosmic timer is judging you, but because commitment and attention are powerful forces. They shape what you notice next, who you speak to, what door you take. Now let me draw the line between two things that feel almost identical in the body: fear and expansion. You have felt both. Your stomach drops before a big presentation, your heart races, your hands sweat on a first date. They also sweat before a thrilling leap. The chest tightness, the shortness of breath, the adrenaline, these are raw sensations. Alone, they don't tell you whether to retreat or to move forward. Interpretation does. Think about a time you turned away from something because it felt dangerous. Maybe it was leaving a job after a bad week. Maybe it was ending a relationship after one fight. Sometimes that withdrawal saved you. Other times you look back and realize you left just as the story was about to change. Conversely, think of someone who stayed through months of discomfort, only to emerge years later with a life that matched their vision. Which person was right? Neither, and both. The difference wasn't the sensation, it was the way they interpreted it and what small next step they took. Sunk cost blindness is the invisible trap that keeps you glued to things that no longer serve you. It's the reason we pour more time into projects that have already failed, because we've invested ourselves. It's the reason people tolerate relationships, jobs, or habits long after the signals say, "This is not for you." Now, sunk cost blindness doesn't operate in a vacuum. It lives inside your body as well. Your posture slumps, your breath shortens, your attention walks on autopilot. You might be telling yourself, "I can fix this," or "I can make it work," and that story coaxes you to stay. But there's a counterintuitive partner to sunk cost blindness: pattern recognition. Reality often repeats itself until someone notices. The universe, again, as a way of describing the system around you, tends to echo the same forms until attention breaks the loop. Patterns don't necessarily shout. They whisper with repetition, the same argument in different words, the same offer with a different person attached, the same missed opportunity disguised as fate. If you sharpen your attention, these patterns become visible. That is active perception, the idea that what you look for grows more obvious to you. So how do you tell fear from expansion? Start by slowing down the story. When the body signals, name the sensation. Say it quietly: tightness, pulling, heat. Then ask two small questions. What is it asking me to protect? And what is it asking me to explore? Protection and exploration feel similar because both mobilize you. But protection focuses on safety and retreat. Exploration leans toward testing and slight forward motion. Here's a tiny experiment you can do in 10 seconds. Stop whatever you're doing. Scan your body quickly. Head, shoulders, chest, stomach. Name the dominant feeling, then take one small reversible action that tests whether the signal is fear or expansion. It could be as simple as sending a single message, opening a new tab, sketching one idea, or saying, "I'll try this for 1 week." Dutisun, that small act is a way to gather data without committing your life. It's a signal back to reality that you are curious and paying attention. Let me tell you 2 short, invented stories. No names, just sketches. Because examples help this make sense. A person named Maya had been teaching at the same school for 6 years. Each year, she felt a strange mix of dread and energy every time she thought about starting a new semester. Her stomach knotting felt oppressive. She assumed she was burned out. For months, she planned an escape, a new city, a new career. Before making a leap, she tried a different approach. She gave herself a 10-second ritual every morning for 2 weeks, a quick scan of her body, and a single tiny experiment, one new teaching method or one new conversation with a colleague. Slowly, patterns shifted. The dread loosened. The energy leaned toward expansion. Those small tests revealed that what she needed wasn't an immediate exit, but a different way to teach. She didn't save herself overnight. She observed, tested, adjusted. The world, students, colleagues, new projects, began to respond. Her internal commitment to curiosity reorganized external possibilities. A different person, Alex, stayed in a business partnership because of how much he'd already invested. The meetings were exhausting, the returns minimal, but the thought of leaving felt like admitting a failure. The body warned him repeatedly: fatigue, shallow sleep, a chronic ache at the base of his skull. He chalked it up to temporary stress. Months later, after a small private experiment, asking for one change in the project schedule, he realized his partners weren't willing to shift. The pattern repeated. The sunk cost blindness had blinded him to the fact that the system around him wouldn't adapt. Finally, with careful planning, he stepped away. The loss stung, but stepping away freed space for new patterns to emerge. Work aligned with his values showed up within months. Both Maya and Alex listened to their body cues in different ways. One found change within, the other found freedom by leaving. The point is not right or wrong. The point is how attention and small commitments open up new options. When you commit internally, when you make a private promise to test something for 7 days without telling the world, you change the way you perceive. Commitment reorients attention. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible. People cross your path differently because your eyes are different. This is not mystical. It's the psychology of selective attention. When you decide, even quietly, to be open to one type of result, your brain filters inputs accordingly. Studies suggest that our perception is heavily shaped by expectation. If you expect possibilities, you notice them. If you expect threats, you notice those instead. Active perception is a skill you can practice. It begins with small, repeatable habits. Here are 3 prompts you can use starting today. They are designed to be low-friction, reversible, and informative. First prompt, the 10-second scan. Multiple times a day, pause for 10 seconds, close your mouth, breathe slowly. Name one feeling in a single word. Tightness, curiosity, weight, pull. No analysis, no argument, just label. Naming calms the nervous system and creates space to decide what to do next. Second prompt, the tiny test. After the scan, take one small, reversible action that tests the feeling. If you feel pulled toward a possible new idea, write one sentence about it and share it with one person. If you feel closed down, change one small variable in your environment. Move your work to a different corner, step outside, or change the order of your day. The goal is to gather data about how the world responds when you nudge it. Third prompt. The 7-day private commitment. Choose one small thing you are willing to try for 7 days. Don't announce it as a life overhaul. Keep it private as an experiment. It could be 5 minutes of sketching, a daily 10-second scan, or reaching out to one person each day. Commit internally, not for performance, but to see what changes. These practices are intentionally modest. They avoid dramatic promises. They reduce risk while increasing the possibility of new information. The point is to trade paralysis, waiting for absolute clarity, for curiosity-driven trials. Curiosity gives you options. Paralysis narrows them. There is important nuance here. Some sensations are real alarms. If your body signals persistent, severe distress, if you're experiencing constant panic, self-harm ideation, or physical symptoms that interfere with daily life, consider professional support. If you're contemplating major life changes like leaving a marriage, quitting a job without a plan, or moving countries, make practical, safe steps and seek appropriate counsel. Tiny experiments are not a substitute for careful planning when stakes are high. But too often, we ignore small signals that are not alarms, and that's where opportunity hides. You might be thinking, is this just optimism dressed as science? No, this is a translation of how perception, attention, and behavior interact. The universe is not a benevolent puppeteer, and it does not guarantee outcomes. But the system around you responds to your orientation. When you orient toward exploration, you start to gather different data. When you orient only towards safety, your options narrow. That is the pragmatic truth behind the metaphor of the universe responding. Let's return to the idea of repetition. Patterns repeat until they're recognized because systems stabilize around the input they receive. If you continually react to discomfort by running, you train the system to offer you more scenarios that demand immediate escape. If you react to discomfort with curiosity and a tiny test, you change the feedback loop. The same situation can either lock you into a loop or propel you into a different trajectory, depending on how you respond. A core reason people mistake fear for danger is cultural. We are primed to avoid failure, to minimize risk. Our brains are wired for loss aversion. Losses feel louder than gains. That wiring served survival value in ancestral environments. In modern life, however, that tendency sometimes keeps us from noticing that discomfort could be a doorway, not a dead end. Distinguishing between threat and invitation is partly about context and partly about practice. Here is a practical way to reframe a moment of discomfort into a test. Suppose someone offers you a role that feels intimidating. Your body clenches. Instead of deciding immediately, try this sequence. Acknowledge the feeling out loud. I notice my chest is tight. Name the story you're telling yourself, this might fail. Then design a 1-week experiment. Accept a small piece of the role or ask for a pilot trial. Collect data. Short-circuit the story that forces you into a binary decision. The goal is to move from a life ruled by either-or reactions to one guided by small, iterative steps. Now, what about the cost of staying? Sunk cost blindness works quietly. You will tell yourself reasons to stay: history, investment, dignity. All of those reasons have weight. The question to ask is pragmatic. What is the trajectory if nothing changes? You don't need immediate certainty to answer that. Look at the pattern. Are key variables shifting in ways that will help you later, or are they stagnant? Sometimes staying is the correct long game because the system will adapt. Sometimes leaving sooner is the kindest and most productive choice because it frees resources for different opportunities. The difference between staying and leaving productively often comes down to whether you can do small, adaptive experiments rather than making an all-or-nothing bet. When you commit internally, whether to stay and adapt or to prepare a careful exit, you send out a different kind of signal. People behave differently around someone who is quietly resolved. Opportunities cluster, conversations shift. That is not magic. It is social and psychological dynamics. When you decide privately to test and act, you stop being indecisive. You appear more appealing as a collaborator or partner because you are moving towards something. The universe does not conspire to give you free gifts, but systems, social networks, markets, workplaces respond to patterns of engagement. Your internal decision changes how you participate in those systems, and participation shapes outcomes. We have to address a common fear. What if I make the wrong choice? The truth is simple and freeing. Small experiments lower the cost of mistakes. A tiny forward step can be undone. A 7-day trial can be adjusted. The point is to reduce the stakes of decision-making so that learning becomes the measure of success instead of being right on the first try. Life is iterative. The people who look like they've arrived rarely made perfect choices. They made many small corrections. Let's practice right now for 10 seconds. Stop reading for a moment and do exactly this. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 1. Breathe out for 5. Do a rapid scan from your head down to your feet. Notice one place where you feel the most energy. Tightness, lightness, pull. Name it, that's all. Name it. Did you find it good? Now decide on one tiny test you can try in the next 24 hours that corresponds to that feeling. If it's curiosity, take one small action toward the thing that sparked it. If it's fatigue, allow yourself one restorative boundary. If it's dread, list one small variable you can change to test whether the environment can shift. This is the essence of your 10 seconds, not a magical deadline, a reset, a chance to notice, to label, to respond. The universe, as metaphor, wants you to know that these micro-moments are significant because they concentrate information. They compress hours of background processing into a flash. They are invitations to become active perceivers rather than passive reactors. Remember, attention is a muscle. Like any muscle, it grows with consistent, appropriate strain. 10 seconds of scanning, practiced daily, strengthens your capacity to notice the difference between fear and expansion. Tiny tests teach you what the world does in response. Private commitments reorient your internal compass and, over time, the external landscape. Before we close, let's address the sting of regret many people carry. Regret is a teacher, not a verdict. If you left too soon, you gained time and avoided pain. If you stayed too long, you learned endurance or discovered misalignment. Neither outcome makes you morally inferior. What matters is what you do with the information now. Use regret as data, not identity. And one more practical caveat. If the signal you're getting is chronic and disabling, persistent panic, night sweats, destructive behaviors, or anything that disrupts daily functioning, consider professional support. Professionals exist to help you navigate high-stakes situations. Use a safety net when you need one. The 10-second practice is powerful for ordinary, everyday pivots. For major crises, pair it with care. Now hear this as clearly as I can put it. You do not need to make monumental decisions in a single moment. You do need to attend to those moments. 10 seconds are enough to notice, to name, and to take a test. The universe, your reality, communicates through repetition and responsiveness. If you stay present for those micro moments and act in tiny, reversible ways, you will learn faster, move more intentionally, and avoid the slow erosion of sunk-cost blindness. So here's a concrete plan for the next week. For 7 days, do a 10-second scan 3 times a day. After each scan, choose one tiny test. Keep a simple log. 1 sentence about what you felt, 1 line about the test, and 1 note about what changed. At the end of 7 days, review the pattern. Did something repeat? Did something shift? That simple process is often more illuminating than months of agonizing. This is not about guaranteeing any single outcome. It is about widening the field of what you can see and try. It's about converting vague, uncomfortable energy into small experiments that produce clearer information. It's about learning to listen to the signals and respond with humility and curiosity rather than automatic fear or rigid endurance. We started with urgency because the title is urgent. Important. You have 10 seconds to hear what the universe wants you to know. That urgency is a device to focus attention. But urgency shouldn't cause panic. Let urgency sharpen your curiosity. Let it make you stop long enough to listen. If this landed for you, if you felt the knot loosen or the curiosity spark, subscribe for more short shifts like this. And try the 7-day experiment I just described. Keep it private if you want. Treat it as data gathering, not performance. Come back after a week and see what patterns changed. Don't leave before the story changes. Those 10 seconds are a portal. Notice them, name them, test them with tiny reversible steps. The world isn't a single event, it's a series of small openings. Treat each one as an invitation. 10 seconds, that's all.